You know, when we hear about drug cartels, we usually picture shootouts and gangs. But honestly, that's not even half the story. Today, we're going deep inside the global drug empire to see it for what it really is, a complex, incredibly powerful system that operates like a massive corporation, sometimes even like a government. So let's get into it.
To really get a feel for this world, you have to start right on the ground. This quote from a former Special Forces soldier, it just puts you right there, in the middle of it all, where everything is tense and unpredictable. It's a world where the people you used to hunt are now the ones running the show.
And that's really the first thing you need to understand. We're not talking about your average street gang here. Organizations like the Sinaloa cartel in Mexico, they pretty much operate like a shadow government, with more people, more money, and frankly, more influence than the actual state itself.
So how big are we talking? Well, look at this number, 100,000. That's roughly how many people work for the Sinaloa cartel. Just think about that. That's a bigger payroll than a lot of huge multinational companies. It's basically an army, and it's completely woven into the fabric of society.
And here's where it gets really crazy. When you put that 100,000 number right next to the number of local police, you see the problem instantly. The cartel just completely outnumbers and outguns the authorities. They have eyes and ears everywhere, from kids on street corners to their own patrols. They own the territory, plain and simple.
And all that control? Well, it translates into an absolutely insane amount of money. $3 billion. That's the estimated cash that flows through the Sinaloa cartel every single year. I mean, that's more than the entire economy of some small countries. With that kind of money, they can bribe who they want and buy whatever weapons they need.
So you've got this massive empire. How on earth do they move their product all over the world? Well, it turns out they've built a global smuggling machine that's this wild mix of dead simple tricks and some truly unbelievable high-tech ingenuity. Okay, take a look at this. In literally 10 minutes, a skilled crew can hide almost $500,000 worth of heroin and cocaine inside a regular-looking car. The modifications are so good, it's nearly impossible for border agents to find anything, especially when you have thousands of cars crossing the border every day. But cars, that's just one part of their operation. When they need to move the really big shipments, their methods get way more ambitious. $73 million. That's how much cocaine was found on just one of their custom-built narco submarines. And these aren't some rusty tubs. We're talking sophisticated vessels that can travel for thousands of miles without ever being seen.
And this part just blows my mind. These high-tech subs aren't being built in some fancy shipyard. Nope. They're built deep in the jungle, totally hidden from satellites and patrols, by an army of engineers and workers who are all part of this massive secret operation.
Of course, you don't hold on to an empire like this with just clever engineering. The only way to maintain control is through brutal, strategic violence. And it's not random. It's a language, a terrifying one, that everyone in their territory is forced to understand.
And the people who speak this language, the cartel hitmen, are created in the most horrific way you can imagine. This quote comes from a former hitman. He said that in their training camps, they don't use paper targets. They use actual people, members of rival cartels. Recruits are forced to hunt them down and kill them for practice. This violence is also used to send cold, calculated messages. Take the journalist Javier Valdez. He reported on the cartels. He was assassinated at 12 p.m. and shot 12 times. The name of his newspaper translated to River 12. You see, this wasn't just a murder. It was a public execution designed to send a crystal-clear message to any other journalists. Stay silent or you're next. And the human cost of this empire is it's staggering. More than 200,000 people have been killed in Mexico's drug wars alone. That's more than the combined death tolls from the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. It's an unbelievable level of carnage, and it's all fueled by the global demand for drugs.
So why? Why does this insane cycle of violence just keep going? Well, to really get it, you have to follow the supply chain all the way back to the very beginning. Because the engine driving this whole global machine, it isn't really greed, it's poverty.
Just look at this table. It tells you everything. A cocaine chef in Peru, that's someone who processes the coca leaves. They risk more than 10 years in prison to make about $150 for a kilo of cocaine paste. That same kilo, by the time it gets to the streets in the UK, is worth thousands of times more. The people at the very bottom are taking all the risk for almost none of the reward.
And that's the reality for the people doing the dirty work. The mochileros, the guys who backpack the drugs through the jungle. They're not in it for the thrill. As this one guy said, it's just pure fear.
They do it because where they live, there are no other jobs. The cartels are the only employers around.
So when you put all of this together, the scale, the money, the violence, and the poverty that fuels it, you start to realize something. For decades, the world has been fighting a war on drugs. But looking at how the system actually works, you have to wonder if we've been fighting it all wrong.
So let's just ask the question, point blank. After all these years, after trillions of dollars and countless lives lost, is any of this actually working?
Okay, check this out. This is a typical anti-drug raid. You've got 3 assault helicopters, 32 heavily armed police officers, all mobilized to destroy one tiny cocaine processing pit in the jungle. It's a huge show of force. But the reality? That pit can be rebuilt in a day, just a little deeper in the jungle. It's like trying to empty the ocean with a bucket. It's useless.
And that brings us to the real heart of the matter. The whole strategy is failing because it's only targeting the symptoms, the labs, the smugglers, the hitmen. It completely ignores the root cause. As long as people are stuck in crushing poverty with no other options, there will always be someone else ready to cook the coca, carry the backpack, or pull the trigger. Which leaves us with a pretty heavy question. What if the war on drugs has never really been a war on drugs at all, but a war on poverty that we've been fighting in all the wrong ways?